The leading aged pacers face off on Ontario's best half-mile surface at the Raceway at Western Fair. Post 5 starter Brue Hanover drives in off a perfect record since shipping into Ontario, including a sweep of the New Holland Series.
But Brue Hanover crushes. It's a New Holland sweep for Brue Hanover. He wins by 5.
Next door, millionaire Chase H Hanover looks to make his Canadian debut, coming in off a second place in the Borgata Series at Yonkers Raceway.
Chase H Hanover is trying to fight him on, but it's Mostel Ben pulling through. Chase H Hanover second.
Veteran Ervin Hanover comes in fresh for trainer Dave Menary after multiple preferred victories at Woodbine Mohawk Park, including an impressive 147.3 mile last year.
Ervin Hanover absolutely demolishes this field again in 147.3.
5 more household names complete the list for this exciting matchup. It's the Camluck Classic, presented by Sealster Farms, right here on Primetime Racing.
On this late May Friday night, welcome into the Forest City. Welcome to London, Ontario, and the Raceway at Western Fair District. As tonight, we are here in prime time for the Camluck Classic. And a good evening, everybody. My name is Mark McKelvey, alongside harness driver and my special guest co-host, Natasha Day. And, well, Mother Nature isn't necessarily cooperating here tonight. It wasn't too bad at the start of the evening, but we've had some light rain, just steady rain throughout the evening now. But the fans are hanging in there. It's a packed grandstand, a little lighter out here at the rail in the rain, but we're under a nice tent. We are dry, and the track's in great shape for 2 main events coming your way here tonight on Primetime Racing in the form of the Forest City Pace and then the Camluck Classic. And Natasha, here tonight at Western Fair, you know this track so well. It's a half-mile oval, so you got to go 4 turns. It's a little tighter out there. But some of these older pacers, they're coming from having raced primarily on the big track. Is that going to be a factor here tonight coming to the half-mile oval?
Yeah, absolutely. When they're coming back to this track after being on the big tracks for so long, it can be a little bit of a shock. But I'm sure a lot of them will handle it. They're all classy animals, so yeah, they've all pretty much been around the half.
It is a real good-looking contest in the Camluck Classic here tonight. It should promise to be quite the shootout. Really looking forward to it. But at this time, we want to take a closer look at the history of Western Fair. Let you know a little bit about the playground we're on this evening. The Western Fair Association was founded back in the 1800s. It's one of the oldest fair associations in Canada and in North America. A lot goes on these grounds. You've got an arena, an agriplex, of course, the racetrack, and the signature fair that happens each and every September. The one highlight here that I always love to bring up, a nice little fact, is the fact that this is the first track in Canada where they had racing under the lights, the first place where they had nighttime racing. And here tonight, we can call it the site of Friday night lights, as we've got some great harness racing action coming your way. We have a third member of our broadcast team to introduce. That is Jamie Macdonald, and Jamie is standing by over in the paddock.
Thanks, Mark. And of course, like you said, I'm over in the paddock. This is where the horses come in with their trainers, get ready, get dressed, go and warm up out on the track. And of course, the drivers come and talk to the trainers to see what the night's going to be like and read the board, see what the race is going on. Maybe a little rainy on your side, but we can absolutely hear the roar of the crowd over on this side of the track. There's so much excitement in this paddock here. The drivers, the trainers, the grooms, everyone around is ecstatic to see these next 2 races as we are live here for 200,000 between the 2. So lots of money on the line, and we're excited to see what happens here. Back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Jamie. Yeah, that enthusiasm, you can definitely feel it here. As we came up on the air, we had a race happening on the track. So a lot is going on here tonight. It's been a fun evening of racing, some good action, and should tee us up for what will be our main events, the Forest City Pace. That's coming up in race number 10, the next event here on site. And then it is the Camluck Classic. And this race has all kinds of rich history, and we'll get to it in just a little bit. But we're going to start first with the mares. And in this mares contest, the Forest City Pace, one trainer named Dave Menary will send out Blue Pacific. Later on, he'll figure very prominently in the Camluck Classic when he sends out H Hanover and Brue Hanover. But for now, let's focus in on Blue Pacific. She is owned by local Sealster Farms. They're actually the sponsor of tonight's Camluck Classic, and they're hoping that Blue Pacific can give them a thrill in the Forest City Pace.
Hi, I'm Dave Menary, training Blue Pacific in the Forest City Pace. Blue's been a great mare. You know, she's been very versatile. She had a good run through the winter. You know, now she's faced a little stiffer competition. She drew really well tonight, so hopefully she can have her best performance and put on a good show. Well, last week at Flamborough, she had the rail and was pushing very, very hard and ended up going off stride. You know, we've made a few little adjustments, and she just jogged the warm-up at Flamborough, and we'll go a pretty good mile with her and touch her through that first turn in the warm-up and have everything ready to go for game time. She had such a good run through the winter. Her date at my barn was supposed to be till February 15th, but we staked her up and was carried on, and hopefully she can be good the rest of the year. Well, she's staked in the Roses Red and the Milton. She's going to have to step up to the next level. The All Raj and Lexington, but we'll just keep taking it week by week with her.
All right, well, good to hear from Dave Menary. We'll hear more from him a little bit later on in tonight's broadcast. Blue Pacific is one of 8 mares that'll line up in tonight's Forest City Pace. Another one of those mares. She really doesn't need any introduction around these parts. That is so much more. Canada's pacing queen. Over $1.7 million earned, multiple O'Brien awards. She has won this race back-to-back years, trying to go for the three-peat. Some might say maybe she's lost a step, but I think maybe the biggest thing she has is her heart.
She's the toughest mare you could get in Ontario, I think, possibly in Canada. She's all grit and grind. She races week in, week out, and she just gives her best like 24/7. So, you know, you got to have a little bit of respect for her going into this race, because you can never cancel her out in these big races. Well,
I know driver James Macdonald has told me multiple times that it feels like when people start to write off so much more, that's when she steps up and proves them all wrong. We'll see if she can do that here tonight, but maybe the now horse in this field for the Forest City Pace is the Red Heart, Caviar, and Crackers, and that red hot mare is driven by Ed Hensley. Jamie catches up with Ed now.
Just in front of the post one in race 10, Caviar and Crackers, I have the driver, Ed Hensley, here with me. And, you know, this mare has just been unbelievable lately, 5 in a row. Just kind of talk us through how she's been.
Well, she's been extra sharp, way better than I could imagine. I couldn't expect her to be this good, and we're coming into it very sharp. So, and we got the rail, so I think we have a pretty good shot.
I was just going to say, you know, it's a half mile tonight with the rail. Kind of, what's your plan? Do you have one, or wing it as you go?
Yeah, I don't know. She ain't the best on the front. I mean, I did try her. She did win on the front. I was surprised, but she likes a good trip, but it's kind of hard to get a good trip on the half. You know, it's hard to, you know, come second over or something and be able to catch these good mares if they get good traction. So I don't know. I'm hoping I can get away good.
And just like you said, they are good mares. It's an invitational race. It's, you know, the cream of the crop here tonight. And just kind of your competition, you've seen them on and off lately. And what are your thoughts just in general of this race?
Very tough.
Yeah.
It's way tough. And I'm just happy that she made it this far, because I'm actually shocked. But she's got a good shot in here.
Well, thanks for joining us here, and good luck tonight.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Jamie. Good to hear from Ed Hensley. As mentioned, Caviar and Crackers has just been racking up the victories at the top mares level at Woodbine Mohawk Park. Now she transitions to the half, and we'll talk more about it on the other side of the break, but that certainly will be a factor. The Forest City Pace, our first of 2 here tonight on Primetime Racing, coming up when we return. And welcome back, everyone, to Primetime Racing, our exclusive coverage of the Camluck Classic and the undercard feature, the Forest City Pace. $50,000 is the purse for this Mayor's Pace Invitational, a field of 8. Mark McKelvey and Nat Day with you. And Nat, we heard from Ed Hensley prior to the break. He talked about his post-1 starter, Caviar and Crackers, and how she doesn't necessarily like the front, but when you have the rail, everyone's expecting that you're going to push out of there and use it to your advantage. How tricky is this for him, having post-1 with a horse that he doesn't necessarily see being on the lead?
This is a tricky track, won't lie, in the first turn. So I think he's going to have to try and utilize that rail position and try and hold as best he can, because there's going to be a lot of speed early. Everyone's going to be wanting to gun for the front because this track is a front runner's track.
When we get to the Camluck Classic, we have a couple of trip notes that we will pass along. One of them is the fact that winners of this race, typically, they're either first or second at the 3/4 pole. That is a bit of half-mile racing. Not to say that you can't win coming out of the clouds, but you have to be up front. Caviar and Crackers has been racing so well. She's been racing at Woodbine Mohawk Park in the preferred ranks. She's won 5 in a row, so she's trying to make this 6 in a row. Another horse that's been red hot is the number 2, Lady Tara, who we look at right now. And you mentioned this might be a sneaky horse. She hasn't necessarily been racing at that high of a level, but she's racing very well.
And she knows London. She's raced here many a time. She's got gate speed, obviously. I think Bob's probably going to be looking at that plan maybe too, try and gun out as hard as he can. It just depends on how much speed is coming from outside, because again, you've got to be on the front end with this speed. It's hard to come around these horses from the back.
The 3 victories in a row for the number 2, Lady Tara. There's a peek at Blue Pacific. Trainer Dave Menary, who we heard from, and coming into a night like this, he's loaded for bear with not only Blue Pacific in this race, but a great 1-2 punch in the Camluck Classic. Menary's barn loaded with lots of talent. Nights like these, though, when you come in and you got multiple horses that you expect to race really well, your expectations are probably pretty high.
Absolutely, they're definitely high. The only question mark I have with this mare is the break on its last start at Flamborough, which, you know, it just puts a little question mark there. But these horses are class horses. It could be, you know, it could have been anything.
She made a break early on in that race. That was the Margaret Juravinski Invitational at Flamborough back on May 18th. You just saw odds on Platinum. She was the winner in that race, so she's trying to come back and make it 2 in a row on half-mile ovals. Goes for trainer Dr. Rhea Moore and driver Louis Waugh. There's a peek, though, at Canada's Pacing Queen. So much more. She's just all great, like you talked about, tough as nails. And familiarity with this track, you talk about Lady Tara. Even though she hasn't necessarily been at the top of her game as of late, I'm sure some familiar surroundings doesn't hurt.
Yeah, and James knows how to drive her perfectly. James knows how to drive the half perfectly. He's no stranger to winning here. He knows how to win big races. The guy can make his own luck, and this mare can make her own luck too. So you can never count them out.
She's just been a pleasure to watch over the course of her career. How about this? 76 career victories. I mean, many would just be lucky to get a couple of wins. She's been to the winner's circle 76 times, and she's got a big cheering section on hand here tonight at Western Fair. There's a look at the 6, a few choice words, who goes for trainer Blake McIntosh. He's going to hand the lines over to a U.S.-based driver, Dan Dubé, Canadian-born reinsman. Veteran reinsman coming in tonight for a drive in the Camluck Classic. Now picks one up here, and sometimes you just like to be Johnny on the spot, try to make something happen, and switching it up. That's something I want to ask you. Sometimes when you switch up the driver, it just kind of shakes things up for everybody.
Sometimes it can lift a horse, you know. Sometimes you get into a complacent mood with the horse and the horse gets complacent with you, and sometimes a change of driver, it really sharpens a horse up.
Jody Jameson had been driving a few choice words. He'll be sitting behind number 7, Grit and Grace, and then the 8 will be Collusion Hanover. If it's your first time watching racing here at Western Fair, well, welcome in. One thing to note, when you look at the starting gate, it is 7 across. Number 8 starts in the 2nd tier. When you're in that 2nd tier, what are your options there? What are you thinking? Because you have a couple of choices who you want to line up behind, but here at this track, do you just primarily want to stick to that number 1?
It just depends on who you want to follow. You try to find the horse that's got the most speed that you can follow out, as long as you have speed to go with it. So you could decide to leave out behind, you know, the 4 horse if you want. But yeah, it's definitely a strategy game, especially at this level. But I think there's going to be a lot of speed. I don't think it would matter who you follow out.
All right, so the horses are starting to exit the race paddock, and they will come through the tunnel as they're on the other side of the road here at Western Fair, and they'll make their way onto the track, and then we will have the post parade as we'll formally introduce you to this field of 8. $50,000 is the purse for the Forest City Pace. The Camluck Classic, our feature event, is going to go for triple that, $150,000 on the line, as Jamie mentioned a little bit earlier on, $200,000 plus in purses here tonight across the 12 total races here at Western Fair. Of course, we're bringing you this 1-2 punch in the form of the Forest City and the Camluck Classic here on our debut of prime time racing. So the horses are going to come out onto the track. The tunnel's kind of unique, isn't it, to Western Fair?
Yeah, tunnel's definitely unique. You have quite a few horses that don't like it, but it's definitely a great feeling when you go through the tunnel. They get awesome photos from the tunnel too.
All right, so the horses are stepping out onto the track. We're about to introduce you to the field. Right now, looking up at the betting board, even money favorite is the number 4 odds on Platinum, but right behind at 2-1 is the number 1 Caviar and Cracker. So that favoritism could be flipping back and forth between those two mares. All right, I can hear the bugle playing here on site. Time for the post parade. There's a great crowd on hand. Looks like the rain has maybe subsided a bit, so we'll definitely take that as we're ready for our feature events. And here is the field. Number 1 is Caviar and Crackers. This is a 5-year-old mare owned by Ed and Ashley Hensley. Ashley's the trainer, Ed does the driving, and she's red hot as mentioned. She's won 5 in a row. The number 2 is Lady Tara, 3 win in a row. Karen Carroll owns, Zachary Carroll trains. Bob McClure will do the driving behind this 5-year-old mare. The number 3 will be Blue Pacific. Trainer Dave Menary is just off to a red-hot start in 2025. Doug Mcnair will sit behind. This one is owned by Sealster Farms. She'll have future plans for her in terms of being a brood mare, but for now she focuses on the racetrack. She is 4 for 11 this year. There's a look at number 4, Odds on Platinum. This 4-year-old daughter of Bettor's Delight is owned by Let It Ride Stables and Odds on Racing. Trained by Dr. Ian Moore, who has won the Camluck Classic multiple times. Now looks for the Forest City Pace. Louis Waugh drives. Canada's pacing queen is number 5, So Much More. The now 9-year-old is a 76-time winner, $1.7 million earned. One day we'll likely hear her name called into Canada's Hall of Fame. Dawn and Ken Beatson. Cole England, that's the ownership group, a family affair. Don Beatson trains and James Macdonald drives. The number 6 is A Few Choice Words. This 4-year-old daughter of Courtly Choice is owned by Clancy Farms of Severn, Ontario. Blake McIntosh trains while Dan Dubé gets the driving assignment. 1 for 10 this year, but last year she had a very successful year, made over $450,000. The outside starting spot will be filled by number 7, Grit and Grace, 4-year-old mare who is trained by Michael Kwinowski. Jody Jamieson drives, 5 wins, a 7-time winner last year, so 12 for her career. Looks for her biggest win here tonight. And the number 8, the post 8 starter, so from the 2nd tier, is Collusion Hanover, owned by Determination, trained by Luke Blay. Sam Filion gets the call. She was 4th in her most recent start. She's winless in 6 tries this year. There was a 5-time winner back in 2024. So there you have it. That is the field of 8 here for race number 10. It is the Forest City Invitational Pace, $50,000. I like that we see driver Sam Filion, a young reinsman, getting an opportunity in this spot. But speaking of reinsman, not a young reinsman anymore, someone who has won their fair share of big races in this sport is Bob McClure, and he is sitting behind number 2, Lady Tara. I understand that we have Bob mic'd up. Bob, if you can hear us, how's things going?
Oh, it's going good. Been a good night so far.
Well, Bob, you're going to be sitting behind Lady Tara here, and Nat and I were talking about it. This is a mare that's racing real well. It's a bit of a step up, but she's on familiar grounds. What do you think of her in here?
Oh, yeah. Her advantage absolutely is, you know, they came to her ring. So, you know, she's very experienced here. She's definitely going to handle the turns good. She's got good gate speed. She's definitely taking a big hike up here, but this track can be a great equalizer for horses like this.
Post position number 2, so an inside starting spot certainly helps things out here. Caviar and Crackers right beside you. She's racing so well. I mean, this is a pretty deep group. How do you tackle this one when you get in behind the starting gates? A little bit of kind of looking to your left and right, or do you kind of got an A plan that you're looking to stick to?
Yeah, I'd say we're just going to leave out as far as we can, and there's going to be a lot of gate speed, so we'll see where we end up and go from there. But yeah, it's obviously when you're taking this big of a class jump, you know, if she lands third or fourth, there won't be any first stop. But, you know, she might get lucky enough, you know, things open up in these tracks and these races, and she might be able to slide up the rail for a piece.
All right, Bob, before we let you go, there's a good crowd on hand here tonight. Full time at Woodbine Mohawk Park. You're on the big track, but on a night like tonight, a big night here, you come back to the half-mile track. This has got to be a lot of fun.
Oh, I've always loved this night and this track. Yeah, I spent a lot of time here when I was starting out, especially. You know, it's been very good to me. And, you know, they always have the track in good condition. I know there's a good crowd on nights like this. This place, you can tell when you're here, they actually love racing horses. And it's, you know, you go to other places and, you know, the horse racing's are kind of a side note. But this place has always been a very enjoyable place to work.
All right, Bob, thanks so much for doing this and best of luck.
Thank you.
All right, there's Bob Mcnair behind Lady Tara. Nat, you heard him talk about the fact that he knows it's a class jump for this mare, but he said that this track could almost be a great equalizer. Is that kind of how you see it as well?
Absolutely, it can. Like, Bob's got the correct plan. The mare's got great gate speed, so why not try to utilize it? Caviar and Crackers, I mean, I'm pretty sure she'll be great around the half, and Ed'll have the same probably plan. Try and get as far forward early in the race as you can, and I think Bob's plan is, yeah, hope if he's not on the front, hope that the brakes open up and they can get a check at the end of the day, because it will really do the horse's confidence too. It'll step her up to the next level.
You know this starting gate very well. Is it something that you can almost time? Is it, if you get right up on there, can that be a bit of a disadvantage? I'm thinking more of some of those outside starters. Do they have to kind of time it if they want to really surge forward?
Yeah, the 6-7 hole can be a little tough on this track. You're definitely going a lot faster, and then when it hits the top of the straight, it can actually come back to you a little bit when you're on the outside. So you really have to time it to not hit the gate before it lets you go. So if you got one with a bit of speed, you have to judge it quite well.
All right, the gate is rolling. The mares are lining up. It is time for the $50,000 Forest City Invitational Pace. And right now, we turn things over to the voice of Western Fair, Shannon Sugar Doyle.
More James Macdonald. A few choice words, Dan Dubé, Grit and Grace. Jody Jamieson treading out, Collusion Hanover, Samuel Filion, 8 starters, 1/8 of a mile out. Picking up speed, here they come for the 2025 edition of the Forest City Pace. They're off. Jody Jamieson hits the go button on Grit and Grace. It's a killer crossover. And off stride goes Odds on Platinum. Odds on Platinum at 3-5 has gone to a break. Grit and Grace from Manitoba on the lead here for Jody. The lead is 3 full lengths. Caviar and Crackers for Alberta is racing second. She's thinking about it. Caviar and Crackers swooping up to grab the lead at the quarter mile. Here it is, 27-3 for Caviar and Crackers. Grit and Grace at 60-1 for a 2-hole ride. Blue Pacific up with them there in third, fourth, and on the in. We've got Lady Tara switching to the outside in fifth, getting underway now. Here comes Canada's pacing queen, So Much More, now in play for James Macdonald. She's going to be second over here at the half. Setting it up third over was Collusion Hanover, a few choice birds, and way back to Odds on Platinum. The half was just 57 flat. Teletimer for sure on the side of Caviar and Crackers, her first go ever on a half-mile track in Canada, showing the way as they head to the backside. Final time, it's Caviar and Crackers up and at her. Blue Pacific tripping out in third has been Grit and Grace. So Much More is getting involved. She's fourth. Fifth and buried is Lady Tara. Then came a few choice words. Collusion Hanover, Odds on Platinum over to 3/4, 125 flat. Still selling it here is Caviar and Crackers trying to buy it. Blue Pacific 3 deep on the outside. Canada's pacing queen, here she comes. What does she got for the stretch drive? So Much More. Widest of all though, Caviar and Crackers finding more. Caviar and Crackers, lady of the hour here. She wins the Forest City Pace. Second best for Grit and Grace. Alberta on the line first. Manitoba second here in 1:53-2.
Well, the beat goes on for caviar and crackers, and it'll be another celebration tonight. That's now 6 in a row for this 5-year-old mare. For Ed and Ashley Hensley, away from the rail, ended up second, comes around there at the opening quarter to grab control, and got a bit of an easy second quarter there, enough of a breather to help things out. But there's a couple things that stand out to me here, Nat. First of all, the break in the first turn by the favorite Odds on Platinum certainly allowed Ed Hensley to have his own way.
It did. It absolutely did.
Welcome back, everyone, to Primetime Racing, live from Western Fair. The Forest City Pace is now in the books. It goes to Caviar and Crackers. And just moments ago, Greg Blanchard had a chance to catch up with winning driver Ed Hensley en route to the winner's circle. Well, we'll get to that in just a second, Nat. The Winner's Circle celebrations just wrapping up out there in the infield. Caviar and Crackers was terrific. As I was mentioning going into break, I thought the break in the first turn made by Odds on Platinum kind of gave Ed the opportunity to have things his own way. We have to talk about the move made by number 7, Grit and Grace. We talked about timing it from the outside. Jody Jamieson did that.
Jody timed it perfectly. I don't think anyone was expecting him to leave out of there like that, and he stole that race just by that move.
Ended up finishing in second. Job well done from post 7, but it was Caviar and Crackers. The second choice wasn't actually the favorite, despite being on this lengthy win streak. That was Odds on Platinum, the favorite, but a miscue for that one, and Caviar and Crackers capitalizes. Here's Greg now with Ed Hensley.
Thank you, Sugar Doyle. Eddie Hensley, first start ever on a half-mile track. How did she handle?
She handled it wonderful, and she paced strong the whole way, never put in a step or nothing. She was perfect.
Now, I know we invited you last year. You were a little hesitant, but did you feel the year of maturity would make the difference with her?
She's very mature now, and she's really sharp right now, which helps, and the race come up pretty good.
And I mean, what an outstanding mare. Safe to say she's been quite an overachiever for your barn?
100%, way overachieving.
And to do it with your wife Ashley here, how special is that?
Unbelievably special.
Well, let you guys enjoy it. Here she is, Caviar and Crackers, an impressive winner of this year's Forest City Pace.
Oh, very impressive.
All right, that was Greg Blanchard here on site at Western Fair catching up with Ed Hensley, and you can see how happy Ed is. Ed doesn't necessarily talk all that much, but he gave us some pretty good information in the pre-race interview, and it kind of all lived up to what he said. This mare has just been such a treat for them. She's becoming quite the ATM as well.
Yeah, and she wasn't an expensive purchase when they bought her. I think it was out of Alberta or something like that. So, yeah, she's gone on and she's definitely made a lot of money. She's stepping up to the mark. And to just be racing preferred level downtown at Mohawk is fantastic dollars. And just to be able to do that week in, week out, and she's getting better and better. So to come here to be competitive and then come out and win this race, that's just icing on the cake.
Yeah, she's certainly taken another big step forward this season. Last year, she won 7 of 33 starts. You can now make it 6 for 17 this year. As mentioned, she was not the favorite, so we take a look at the payouts, and if you are backing Caviar and Crackers, I think you should be very happy with the payout you got here. How about this, though, Nat? In 6 wins now in a row, she's only been the favorite once. She really just doesn't get a lot of respect. She pays $4.60, $3.240. If you nail that EXACTOR, job well done. Grit and Grace, a long shot second. Pays $114.50 if you had the top 2, and so much more. Talk about not getting respect either. $9.50 to show. These are some exceptional mares. It shows just how deep these waters here are in Ontario right now.
Yep, absolutely. So much more. Got to give her a lot of credit. She tried her heart out. She, I thought she was going to make a good move there on the last turn, but this turn is deceiving. These mares, they're so good. If you're not right up basically wheel for wheel with them, it's so hard to make ground on them.
Something we'll keep in mind as we head towards the Camluck Classic, and this race certainly has plenty of history. Used to be known as the Molson Pace, now the Camluck Classic. Time to go down memory lane. We're going to go back to 2010.
23 3 3/4. They're on the final turn. Foiled again, still in front. One the West is coming. Hypnotic Blue Chip rolled off stride. Down inside, Andy Western car waiting for room. And Stonebridge Terror's getting out late. Foiled again, keeping One the West at bay. But he's coming again. Stonebridge Terror on the far outside. A great finish in the pace. Stonebridge Terror and One the West. Won the West in the last stride.
All right, so we go back and see one of the memorable victories from the then Molson Pace, now the Camluck Classic. Kind of a who's who. You saw right there, if you're a longtime fan of harness racing, you just go back and look at it. There's all kinds of memorable names, especially over even the last decade. You think about your state treasurers. You talk then about some of these other horses that have come up and stepped up and won. But there's one name as of late that's looking really good. in the Camluck Classic. That's not a horse, though. It's out of a driver in Louis-Philippe Waugh. We're calling him Lucky Louis in this race because he has done nothing but pretty much win it. In 4 appearances, he has 3 trips to the winner's circle, including with Hullabaloo last year, Jimmy Freight in 2022, and Rock and Ron back in 2018. The only time he didn't get to the winner's circle, well, he hit the board. He was 3rd. Louis does exceptionally well, but he seems to like this race, and he's a driver that doesn't race here primarily either. He races at Woodbine Mohawk Park, but he's had a meteoric rise over the course of his career from the fairs in Quebec, and when he comes here, he puts them in play, and he seems to get results.
Absolutely. He knows where to place a horse. He has a lot of luck in races. He knows how to make his own luck in the races. And when you're getting on these nice horses that you can do that sort of stuff with, it boosts your confidence so much. And you get a driver that is all of a sudden at an all-time high, and that's dangerous.
Well, from those 3 victories, 2 are for the top trainer in the U.S. and Ron Burke, so it shows their confidence when they send horses here. They want to use a driver like Louis Waugh. Jimmy Freight was locally campaigned, so Louis is someone to keep your eye on as we head towards the Camluck Classic. But another horse to keep an eye on in this case is Chase H Hanover, who's had a lot of success at Yonkers, a half-mile oval in New York. Trainer Corey Stratton has shipped this one north for tonight's event, and Jamie had an opportunity to chat with Corey a little bit earlier.
Welcome back to the paddock here. I have trainer Corey Stratton with me, who trains the 6 Chase H Hanover. Now, Corey, you guys actually came in from the States, from the racetrack Yonkers. That's where this one's been racing the last few weeks, and like all the time. When did you get the invitation for the Camluck, and how did that go about?
Greg and I have spoke about it a few weeks ago, and we said let's see how we do in the final of the Borgata. Obviously, Race Super was second, and we took the invite. So.
Now that's an 8-hour-ish trek up here to Canada and to London. What does that look like for planning-wise when you guys are going to come up and race?
It's nothing major. We stop a couple times, make sure he has water, take him off the trailer, walk him around, all that kind of stuff. Make sure he's healthy and all that, and he's fine. I mean, look at him. He's having fun.
So obviously the half mile doesn't make a difference. Yonkers is a half mile, so that racing situation is fine for him. Now coming up here, just the competition. What are your thoughts on the race and who he's against?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know any of these horses specifically racing against them, but I mean, they all look like they're super horses. I mean, it's the Open for a reason. He's as good as them. The post kind of stinks, but we'll see what kind of trip we get.
And you have driver Tyler Borth in the hot seat tonight. What kind of conversations have you had with him, or will you have just about the horse so he kind of knows who he is?
So far I've only had asking him if he'll drive him, so obviously he accepted it. I'll just tell him about him and let him, he's the leading driver here, one of the leading drivers here for a reason, so we'll see how it plays out.
Well, thanks for joining us here tonight, and good luck.
All right, thank you.
All right, good to hear from Corey Stratton as Chase H Hanover looks for another big-time victory here in 2025. Looking for a victory, though, in this race are the locals. Chase H Hanover is kind of the outsider of the group. Some years you get many more outside U.S. invaders, so to speak. Not necessarily the case this year. And that's kind of nice for the locals. As you can see right there, they haven't been having a whole lot of luck as of late. 5 of the last 6 won by horses trained in the U.S., other than Jimmy Freight. But you can see 7 of the 8 are going to be horses that have been based, at least for the last several weeks, if not the last several months, or all the time here in Ontario. And sometimes they talk about keeping the money at home. Very good chance it could happen here unless Chase H Hanover spoils the party.
This is one of those races that even the crowd get behind the locals. They want to see the local horse win. It's definitely one of those atmosphere races that it's a hometown kind of advantage here. So, it's been a shame the US horses have been coming up and stealing our money, but I think we're starting to take it personal.
All right, well, we'll see if that's the case here tonight, unless Chase H Hanover can make sure that this visit here doesn't come with making a lot of friends. Speaking of some of the local horses, Poseidon Sealster is going to be a rail starter here in the Camluck Classic, and he is no stranger to this race. He's been in it multiple times. He's a horse that has been quite the grinder over the course of his career. He's coming in off a victory, over $800,000 earned. And earlier this week, we had a chance to catch up with his trainer, Don Lindsay.
Hi, I'm Don Lindsay. I'm training Poseidon Sealster tonight in the Camluck Classic. Typically, me and my owners, Paul Klein-Pace, Will Elmpejevic, and Garth Bechtel have always seeked out to buy 3-year-old grassroots horses, hoping that they turn into overnight horses at Woodbine. We liked what we saw on the track. We got a hold of the owner, Keith Castles, and we were able to work out a deal. His personality is a really cool horse. He's really nice to have around the barn. The only thing is, and it's really odd, is he's a little claustrophobic. Close stalls and roof stalls and tight spaces, he panics. The flight's very strong in him. His best attribute is his gait, just raw speed. Tonight, I expect him to protect position as much as possible. I think any horse in this field who had the rail would have the exact same game plan, and then hopefully he gets in the mix. It would mean a lot to the Camluck Classic. Grew up racing in London, really liked the night. They put a lot of work into it, makes it a lot of fun. And for the horse, I think it'd be really nice because his best races were probably races when he didn't win. So for him to get a win would be really special. Last year was, we were very much worried having the 8-hole in the trailer, how it would play out. He raced great. He was live, had to do a bit of work. 2022 was very exciting. We had the rail, the same as this week. We pushed out hard. Tattoo Artist cut it, and Jimmy Freight came first up, and it was a monster mile that night. He's been really sharp late. He got a class release last week, and he raced like he should in the better spot he should. The week before, he had the 9-hole, pace of back half 52, couldn't have been sharper. He's been really sharp over his last 6 or 7 starts. He might not be the toughest horse I've ever trained, but he's by far the quickest turn of foot, sheer speed horse I've ever had for an 1/8 of a mile, a 1/4 of a mile.
All right, well, Don Lindsay and Poseidon Sealster, they're ready for the Camluck Classic. So are the other 7 competitors. When we come back, we meet the field. The Camluck Classic coming up next on Prime Time Racing. And Primetime Racing returns. The Camluck Classic is coming up in just a couple of moments. Let's take a look at the field. Number 9, Captain Fear Not, the also eligible, does not draw in. So we've got, from the inside out, And then to the second tier, Poseidon Sealster, Lou's World, Blue Hunt, Ervin Hanover, Brue Hanover, Chase H Hanover, Clever Cody, and Fortify from the second tier. Now this is going to be a real fun race as the post parade is just winding down. Each horse getting walked out onto the track for the crowd to get a good opportunity to look at them. Here is one of the main contenders, the current favorite, number 5, Brue Hanover. Driver James Macdonald joins us now as he is mic'd up on the track. James, Brue Hanover. We'll get to him in just a second, but talk about the atmosphere here tonight. The rain's gone away now, and this place is certainly enjoying some great racing.
Yeah, it ended up being a great night, guys. The rain held off just enough, and it's been a great night of racing, and the crowd's huge. We've got a lot of Brue Hanover fans when I dropped by there the first time. They were all cheering him on, so hopefully he brings his A game and can keep his winning streak going.
You talk about that winning streak. I mean, this horse has just continued to rack up the victories, and you got to sit behind him in his most recent start. What'd you learn about him when you drove him back there on May 17th?
Oh, I've been told by a few people, Travis and Doug both said, like, you won't drive a nicer horse. Like, he's too... Hey! Woo! Thought Doobie was going to get me there. Sorry, bud. But, yeah, he's one of the nicest horses to drive. He's 2 fingers. He's got quick speed, and then he'll just settle right back down for you. He's an absolute gentleman and a pleasure to drive for sure.
Talk about moving to the half-mile track here. Is that of any concern for him?
I don't think so. I mean, his biggest thing when he races at Mohawk is he trips out. He also has raced at Yonkers a few times with success. So I mean, he's raced on a half. He's handy. He drew well. I mean, this is setting up for a good spot for him, I think.
All right, James. Well, we won't hold you up any longer. You got a job to do. Best of luck here with Brue Hanover in the Camluck Classic.
All right, thanks so much, guys.
All right, there's James Macdonald and live television. You never know what can happen out there on the track. You got to be paying attention.
I'm not going to lie, you got to watch those French drivers. They'll try and take you out any way they can, either in a car or on a horse.
So Brue Hanover and James Macdonald are currently the 1-2 favorite. Second choice right now at 7-2 so number 4, Ervin Hanover. Both these horses come from the barn of Dave Menary. Like we talked about earlier in the broadcast, he's loaded in this division. And what I find interesting about these horses, Nat, is they were sent to him from the U.S. One is owned by Pollock Racing, the other is owned by Burke Racing. Those are major outfits, and they're entrusting a couple of their top older pacers with Dave Menary. When you got a reputation like that of getting results, they're coming to you, and so far he's done exceptionally well with both of these horses.
Yeah, I think that's what probably every trainer strives for, is for someone from the States to send you up a top-class horse to entrust you with these sorts of big races, and Dave's got it in spades. He's been doing it a long time, and he knows how to prep one for the big races. So he's definitely got a solid hand in this race, and I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't come away with a winner.
We just saw Ervin Hanover on the screen. There's Poseidon Sealster, but a moment ago we saw Ervin Hanover. Doug Mcnair drives. Here's a horse that finished off last year just picking up the victories, posting some exceptional miles, sub 148 speed late in the year, kind of unheard of in these parts. And then after several months off, he comes off the bench, finished 3rd in his first start back on May 17th when the stablemate Brue Hanover won. Second start out, what's your feeling on that? It just seems pretty normal that they're going to take another step forward.
Yeah, I think he'll be tight for this start. It's all just going to play out how it will at the start. You just got to try and, again, this is the same race as the mare's race before. You got to try and get as close to the front as you can. If you've got gate speed, utilize it, and just hope that the cards fall in your favor.
What I find very interesting is when you look at the post positions 1 through 6, all these horses have a lot of early speed, or at least they get forwardly placed. Not everybody can land on the front, though. There's only going to be one horse cutting it. Do you expect here we're going to see a lot going on up front? Or sometimes in these races, when you expect so much action, everybody sort of waits for everyone else, and then they sort of sit back. You could see that happening as well.
Yeah, sometimes it ends up being the horse that's first over, grinding away, can be the one that steals the money. So, I'd love to see, 4 horses going into the first turn, absolutely, going hell for leather. I think we all love to see that, and just basically toughest man standing wins. But yeah, it can totally change as soon as that gate leaves. There could only be 2 that decide to leave, and the others try to play the tactics game.
So trainer Dave Menary has the number 4 Ervin Hanover and the number 5 Brue Hanover. Both are some standouts in this group and have been terrific in Ontario. The U.S. Invader, though, is the 6 Chase H Hanover, who earlier this year finished 2nd in the Borgata. That race on May 9th at Yonkers went out for over $700,000. So he is the U.S. hopeful. The locals hoping he doesn't get to the winner's circle. Let's see who prevails in the 2025 Camluck Classic. Sugar Doyle has the call.
Tyler Borth, Clever Cody outside with Louis Philippois, Fortify in the back tier spot, Dan Dubé. Field of 8 behind the gate. They're at the top of the stretch. Presented by Sealster Farms. It's the $150,000 Camluck Classic. They're off. It's on. Brue Hanover leaving sharply here for James Macdonald. Chase H Hanover looking for a spot up close. Little steppy on the front end. Brue Hanover, little trouble navigating that opening turn. He threw some steps in, though James Macdonald has kept them together. Chase H Hanover is up and at him to grab control just prior to the quarter mile. So Chase H Hanover, the American Invader, has taken control. Brue Hanover not waiting here. Right back from the pocket following a hot bullet quarter of 27 flat. Lots of action here. Brue Hanover is leading. Here comes stablemate Ervin Hanover now. Ervin Hanover with a 3/8 challenge for Doug Mcnair, sailing up looking for the lead and finding it now. Ervin Hanover taking control here at 5-2. It's the Brue Hanover now second. Chase H Hanover is racing third. The Hanovers 1, 2, 3. Ervin, Brue, and Chase with 1 lap to go in the Camluck. 54-3. Halftime scorcher here out in rolling for it. There goes Lose World for Jamieson. Staying in with Poseidon Sealster. Looking to catch up to cover. Blue Hunt makes the move outside. Next to last was Fortify, and trailing was Clever Cody. They're on to the backside, and it's the final time for Ervin Hanover and Mcnair. Right on the wheel and challenging is the long shot Lose World. Gapping in the pocket. Brue Hanover 3/4. Hit me! 1:22-3. It's Ervin Hanover setting sail into the final turn. He's got Brue Hanover looking to come back for second. Lose World is third. 3 deep out there in 4. Chase H Hanover widest of all, spinning for home is going to be Blue Hunt. Buried along the inside. No room for Poseidon Sealster through the stretch into the mile. Ervin Hanover needing wide. Brue Hanover room at the end for James Macdonald. Oh, he hopped a pylon at the finish. I'm not sure if he stayed on track there. Ervin Hanover, Brue Hanover on the line together in the 2025 edition of the Camluck Classic presented by Sealster Farms. They got there in 1:52.
Wow, incredible finish there. You talk about a game of inches, not just on the track, but at the wire as well. That was something.
That was quite a race from start to finish.
All kinds of action packed, and at the wire we go to the photo finish camera as Ervin Hanover tried to hold on. Brue Hanover desperately trying to see if there was room. Chase H Hanover's in the mix as well. Slow-mo down to the wire. When we come back, we have the results from the Camluck Classic. And we're back on Primetime Racing. We'll take another look at the finish of the Camluck Classic. We slow it down for you. On the lead is Ervin Hanover, the number 4. Number 5, Brue Hanover, is trying to squeeze up the inside, trying to find racing room without going inside the pylons. And then at the wire, you will see Brue Hanover jump a pylon right there in a photo finish. In the photo finish, Nat, Brue Hanover got there first. Has been put up as the winner, but there is an inquiry as the judges review it. And maybe you can explain for the viewers at home what they're looking at. Probably there could be a couple things in this race, but primarily it would be the stretch drive.
Yeah, James, who was sitting in the 2-hole behind Doug Mcnair, Doug shifted off a little bit. James tried to take the run on the inside. Now, if there was enough room or not, that's for the judges to decide. You know, when you're going for this sort of money, you'd go where you can. But he also ended up going inside a couple of pylons right before the finish. And there is a ruling where I think it's like you're not allowed inside 2 or more pylons. So that's up for the judges to decide whether there was room for James initially to get up there or whether he forced his way up there. So either way, Dave Menary.
Yeah, Dave Menary's a winner no matter what.
Yeah.
Whether it's Brue Hanover or Ervin Hanover, Chase H Hanover raced terrific, and he was right in there as well. He only gets beat about a head in that 3-way photo. An incredible finish there. Let's go back early in the race, though. Brue Hanover times it well going up to the lead, but his first turn can, doesn't matter how good a horse you are, sometimes it can get to them, and James had to do a good job keeping them together.
Yeah, James did an exceptional job keeping that horse together. He shifted him out just a little, just in case he broke stride and he had to get out of everyone's road really quickly. Always very aware of that and where the other drivers are around you. You don't want to cause interference to anyone else in these sorts of big races or in any race. But no, I was kind of surprised he got a little steppy on the first turn.
All right, so here's a look at the first turn. You see Brue Hanover to the lead, gets a little bobbly there and puts in some steps. James keeps that one together. They might look at that to see if the horse interfered. I don't think so. This is what they're looking at, the head-on. Look at the inside. How many pylons is Brue Hanover going to be inside as they come here? Looks like one there for sure. And then it's kind of blown out because of the light coming from the photo finish tower. So 2 pylons would be an automatic disqualification, but they have to make a determination. Was there maybe room to start with, and then was Brue Hanover pushed in? It's awfully tight.
Yeah. Is, you know, and it can be millimeters between winning a big race and not winning a big race.
This is a tough call for the judges, and for all the races, 1,000+ races we have every year in Ontario, you get some of these marquee races, and it comes down to a decision. Just like the lob sports, you watch the NHL playoffs, and you wonder if the ref should have called a penalty or not. In this case, they're looking at the video. They can take as much time as they want. It obviously matters to the connections. Dave Menary's the winning trainer, but it's separate ownership groups, so they obviously care big time the money on the line. 2 different drivers, and all the folks here and around the world that are betting, there's a lot riding on this decision. So we're waiting on it here now, and I see, did we see James Macdonald maybe start to head the other way? That might be an indication. Oh, he just went back over to the horse. Is Brue Hanover still waiting?
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be an easy decision, in all honesty. I think they're going to be looking at this quite hard for quite a while, because there is a lot of money on the line. So, yeah, and it's got to be all fair.
Yeah, and all we can say is hang tight, because just like you at home, we'll await this decision and find out who is the official winner of the Camluck Classic. These races, though, we talk about hyping them up throughout the week, and then sometimes they don't live up to the hype. Not the case in this edition. There was a lot of action. The fractions were quite hot. If you look at it, Nat, I think 29-2 was the final quarter. Speaks volumes to a 54-3 half, 122-3. That's smoking around this track.
That is, and the conditions are not perfect either. Like, we got a fair bit of wind here. We've had a little bit of rain. Track, you know, it's not for track records. No. This is not perfect conditions, but they are absolutely flying on this track tonight. So really, that is actually a credit to the track crew and how they have this track ready, and they've dealt with a little bit of rain on it. I think there was a little downpour earlier before we started, or maybe the first race was there. Yeah, so this track's tightened up really nice.
Well, we go back to the slow-mo. And it's tough to tell there exactly when you look at the wheels on the sulky of where they might be on the race bike with the pylons. The head-on kind of gives you that better indication. But this is what amazes me, because by jumping that pylon, Brue Hanover almost kind of came back a bit. If Brue Hanover gets through, though, I think there's no doubt this horse was going to be a winner. Doug Mcnair drove this race very well in the sense that around that last turn, you have Lose World on the outside who's not going to keep coming forward, but you want to almost keep that horse there to make sure you're keeping Brue Hanover locked in behind you. And then, as you can see, he did his best to try and keep the rail shut, which is probably a lot easier said than done.
Absolutely. On this track, there is no passing lane, so Doug did a great job trying to ease his horse back into the field and keep them all jammed up so no one could get out. Unfortunately, when you go these sorts of speeds, the horses can get a little tired at the finish and they'll start to shift off a little bit. And that's where, you know, it's given an opportunity for James to try and shift up the inside. And again, whether there was enough room initially, that's for the judges to decide, you know, and I'm sure they'll talk to James and Doug. But, yeah, I think Doug drove a great race.
So we continue to wait. Not much else we can do right now, as the top four finishers was posted as 5-4-6-3, meaning it was Brue Hanover first, Ervin Hanover second, Chase H Hanover third, and Blue Hunt fourth. Waiting for the official decision in-house here.
Nope.
And there is going to be a placing. Brue Hanover has been placed back to third. So disqualified was Brue Hanover. Finished first, has been placed back to third for a violation of the racing rules, meaning Ervin Hanover goes